Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you how to make your own flower crowns. They're really simple and really easy to make, so watch on to see how I do them. So the first thing you're going to need is galvanised wire, some super glue, pliers and wire cutters, fabric flowers, a glue gun, hot glue, some black elastic string to close the crown. The string's really important because it stretches and it can fit a few different size heads, and a tape measure. Step 1. I cut a piece of wire the same size as my head and coated it in the electrical tape. And then I folded over the ends to make those loops that you can see, and then I re-secured those loops with more tape. The wire is really flexible and the elastic means that it can fit on my head with or without a wig. So to coat it in the electrical tape, I would cut a piece that's about 10 centimeters long, line the edge of the tape up with the wire, and then slowly roll it around the tape. This is easier than doing it in the other direction, where you'd have the shorter part of the tape wrapping around, because that way you get lots of seams and lots of bulk. This is the cleanest way and the tape sits a lot nicer. And then when it comes to doing the next bit, you can just overlap the next piece of tape and do it in the same method that you did the whole way around. So I did this all the way around the frame of the crown, and then where I folded the wire back over, I just put a little bit more tape around that join. And now for flowers. The first thing you do with your flowers is take them off the stems. Keep the flower heads, the stems, and all the leaves. Some of them can take a bit of welly to get off the stems. So my flowers are all made by the same manufacturer, and most flowers tend to have the same process. They aren't glued together, and they all fit onto the stems, so the flowers just cap onto the end of the stems, and any small branches or leaves will slot onto these same stems. So the basis of flower crown is that I can reuse these stems, wrap them around the frame, and then each set of leaves, branches and the flower heads will slot perfectly back onto those wires. So don't throw any of these stems away, because we're going to cut these up and we're going to use these to secure the flowers to the frames. So get your wire cutters, wherever I put them, and start cutting off the stems. The bottom inch of the stem is a little wider than the rest, so avoid this thicker area because you'll have a hard time getting the flowers onto it. So now we're going to use the stems that we cut off and we're going to wrap them around the headband. This is so the flowers can be attached. I'll leave about an inch of stem left at the top for the flower to attach to. Wrap it around the headband for about 1.5 inches. Leave 1.5 inches gap so that the flowers are evenly spaced, and repeat. And then I'll do this the whole way around the headband. And then, when I've attached all the stems, I'm going to trim them down to make them all roughly the same length. They can be trimmed down further later if needed, but this just sort of makes it easier to hold while I'm working on the flowers. So now that the base is ready, it's time to actually start planning my flowers. I've got a nice mix of purples and pinks here. I think what I'm going to do here is go pink and then another colour, and then pink and then another colour. Mixing it up makes it more lively, makes it more organic looking. Having the same colour all over, it doesn't look that great. So I'm going to use a whole range of flowers. I've got roses, carnations, all sorts that I can't name, and I'm also going to use all of the flowers' leaves that came with them. So using all of the leaves on the base of the crown makes it look a lot fuller, and it hides the wires and spikes, and it blends into your wig better. So I'm going to be using all these leaves. They've got little connecting joints that connect onto the stems. I'll cut those down with pliers if they're quite long. They generally come in a few different lengths because they're not the most accurately made things. By cutting down this joint, it gets the leaves to sit closer to the crown, so it does make it look a lot fuller, and it hides the wiring underneath. So once you've filled your whole crown up with leaves, it's time to add these little branches. These branches did come with the flowers, but then a bit rarer. Not all the flowers come with them, so I'm going to use them sparsely. So I put them on every, say, 3 posts. I'm not too concerned about them being symmetrical, because if they are symmetrical, it will look a bit too perfect. So I sort of wiggle them on, find some that look similar, go well together, and then these stick out in the end from behind the flowers and they make it look a bit more lively. So now it's time to actually put flowers onto the crown. I'm going to be using a tiny little bit of super glue on the end of each stem as I put a flower on. This makes sure it's in place and it's not going to come off. I've got to apologise for the camera angle. This was one of the first few things I tried to film. So some of it is in shot, some of it's not. But generally it's put a dab of super glue on the end of the stem and then slide the flower down onto the stem. Because they've got the connectors and because they're also from the same manufacturer, they fit together perfectly. The pattern that I'm going with is pink and then another colour. So I have some of these pink and purplish tone roses. So they're going to be every other flower and then we're going to have something else in between. Apart from right here. Here I made a mistake. The super glue doesn't set instantly. It takes a couple of seconds. So if you do make a mistake, you've got a quick amount of time. You've got a quick amount of time to fix it. But just try not to do it too often or you might damage the stems and the flowers. A smaller flower, just because having a big flower at the back of the neck can interfere with your wig and bash into your neck all the time when you're wearing it. So I'm going to put on some small little pink roses on the ends. So at the back of the crown, I'm going to be having some slightly smaller flowers. This sort of continues the pattern around, but it also makes it easier to wear. If you have really big flowers at the back, your wig can easily get tangled, and if you've got it angled towards the back of your head, sometimes it can knock onto your neck and it can weigh it down and it sort of can get in the way. So having some smaller flowers at the back is a little easier than having these big ones. Plus, you don't end up using your really nice big flowers in somewhere it can't be seen. And now we've got the whole flower crown made, it's time to add some extra little bits of white colouring and extra leaves, just to make it look a bit fuller and look a bit prettier. So I've got these tiny little white flowers. They don't connect on the stalks very well because they're really long. So I've cut off the connectors and I'm just going to be hot gluing them to the back of the leaves and then to the crown. This makes them quite stable and they're not going to come off. So I'll place them from the front and then flip the crown over, and so I know where the flower's going to go. And then I put a dab of hot glue onto the leaf, press in the stems and, well, the stem of the flower, and then hot glue over it, and then connect this piece of hot glue up to the wires. Once the extra flowers are on, I'm then going to hot glue around those original stems to make them really secure on the base wire, so they're not going to move around when it's being packed or worn, so it's all going to be really secure in place. You can add as many of these extra flowers as you like. This is also a great time to add in extra embellishments like lace trims, beads or additional rhinestones, say on the leaves or on the flowers. It can all just be attached with hot glue, or if you want to get really fancy you can use jump rings to attach chains of beads. So that's it, all the additional little white parts are added on. It looks a lot fuller now. So that makes the base of the crown done, and now I'm going to attach the elastic. For this I'm just using some elastic string. I've cut off about 15 centimetres and I'm going to do it in just a normal granny knot. This goes through the two loops at the back and it means that the crown is going to have more flexibility and be able to fit closer. Because sometimes you wear them with wigs and sometimes without, your head size does change a little. So being able to flex it like this is really useful. Also it gives it a little bit more tightness so it's less likely to just fall off your head if you're dancing or doing something. Once I have the knot tied, I'm going to put a little bit of super glue on the ends of the string and over the knot just to stop it unravelling or coming undone. So with that makes the flower crown done. Pretty, right? So that's it, that's the crown made. Here I've just popped it over my wig, and if I want to hide that bit at the back, I can just lift some hair over it. Excuse the wefting, I did a bad job of putting this wig on. It's really cute and I'm really happy. You can make these in any colours you like, using more or less leaves, and just use whatever flowers you can get hold of. Most use the same connecting method, so it's really easy to mix things up. Enjoy making your own!